Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you doing, Dwayne?
Doing okay.
Let's see. Where is the
Hey,
phone
Tom,
on this
we
thing?
we pulled some strings and we got Greg Rasnick added into class. So he
Hang
should
on.
be.
I'm trying to turn up some volume. Okay. Yes.
Uh,
Actually, maybe.
we
Okay.
Greg Rasnick added your AGR143 class.
Okay.
We got that done this morning. We had to set it up as an independent study section deal. So he should be added to Blackboard sometime today or tomorrow, and he should be coming to class for you.
Okay. Glad you
Did
told
you?
me because I was about to. Oh no, 143. Yeah. Never mind. I'm losing my mind. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
the 143. Hey, did you get that email I sent you about that lady, Jacqueline, somebody that's in that 143 class taking it online? I
Um.
forwarded it to you yesterday.
Oh.
She's up in Richmond.
Yes. Okay, I was wondering who she was. Yeah, I've got the email from her.
And
I
then
just haven't had.
I emailed. She sent me an email about how to connect onto the class, and I emailed her back, told her to give me a call. And then I just forwarded that email on to you. And then she called me and we talked, and I told her how this system works and all. And she had your contact information, and she said she was going to get hold of you.
Okay. Okay, I'll email her here in a little while.
Okay. Yeah, her name's, hang on a second. Let me pull it up
It's
real quick.
Jacqueline. It's
Yeah,
Jackie
Jacqueline.
Goodsensee.
Yeah, Jacqueline something.
Yep. Yep, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's her.
All
Okay.
right.
That should hopefully take care of her and Greg. All right. Yes, there are students there from Keysville hooked up.
Yes, that's actually where I am today, is Keysville. We don't have anybody in Alberta or South
Okay.
Boston in here. So
All right. So
you have Jasmine here in Keysville.
how many students will be sitting in the class? Because you said you
Uh,
had some online, right?
yeah, I got three or I've got several of them online, but Jasmine is the only one that's going to be seated, and she's in
Okay.
Keysville.
All right. Uh, well, Jasmine is gonna be meeting you for the first few weeks until uh Evan starts coming to class. He's tied up for the first 4 weeks of
Okay,
class.
sounds
You're gonna
good.
get picked on a lot.
Yeah, you are.
Uh, so uh, for you online students and Jasmine, uh, this is really the first time we've met because of the weather and Martin Luther King Day. So let me go over this. Let me go over this syllabus and what we're planning on doing this semester, um, so you know. And the syllabus is on Blackboard. Let me put it up here on the computer screen under syllabus. Just click on that, and you can just click on the syllabus. Look at it there. I copied and pasted it. So it's there for you. Um, so you've had me before, Jasmine. The other students, I don't know if you've had me or not. So the best way to get hold of me is calling me on my mobile phone because I'm part time and I'm just here to teach. I teach and then I go home. But calling me on my mobile phone is the best way to get hold of me. Or you can email me, and I'll do my best. Do my best to get back with you within 24 hours. Um, and any assignments and stuff need to be submitted to me uh, on your email via email. And The other thing on the assignments, and anytime you email me, make sure it's from your community college account because of the filters. If it's from Google or Yahoo or Hotmail, a lot of that stuff gets filtered out and I don't get it. So make sure it's from your community college email account that you email me on. But just call me anytime you have questions. Don't be afraid to call me, please. I'm happy to entertain your calls. Just don't call after 10 o'clock at night because we're usually in bed at that point. You will need, note-taking stuff and a calculator, and you'll need internet access because of all the stuff on Blackboard. And I don't have a book for this class. I'll give you the materials you need, to be on on Blackboard, and then you can research additional materials that you may need as well. So I'll get you pointed in the right direction. Now, what I would like you to be able to do by the end of the semester is balance rations, which was, you did that last semester in animal science, right, Jasmine? Were you in animal science
Yes.
class? Yeah, I thought you were.
Yes, sir.
So you'll get a lot of experience balancing rations. Understand reproductive management, because if we don't have a product to sell, then we're not going to have, if we have a cow-calf operation or raising sheep or pigs or have a dairy farm, if our cows or ewes or goats or whatever we have, if they don't get pregnant and raise a baby, then we don't have a product to sell, whether it be milk or lambs or kids or calves. Now, if you do a stocker operation, you buy calves, 400 pounds and graze them, and then sell them when they're about 800 pounds, you're not really worried about reproduction. But for this class, you need to know, want you to learn reproduction management. And we covered a lot of that in animal science. We'll hit it again and talk more about synchronization and genetics and artificial insemination and picking out the correct, hopefully picking out the correct males or how to select genetically superior animals. And then the other thing I really want to discuss is forage utilization, managing your forages. Feed costs in animal production is your biggest expense. There's some people say it's up to 70% of your expenses. So the better we can manage our forages and have our animals graze and feed less harvested feed, the better off we'll be with our feed costs. And then if we have time, we'll talk about the environmental impact of animal agriculture. And the other thing that we're going to do is incorporate economics into animal management to increase your profitability, hopefully to increase your profitability. So I designed this class kind of as a capstone class for this program, to where you incorporate some of John's plant science class with forage management, Tom's business classes with economics, and our animal science class, and trying to get all this stuff into the big picture of animal production and real life situations, because that's what we're going to be looking at a lot, what happens in real life. So that's kind of how I've got the course designed. So you will have, I'll give you a couple of exams, about 3 of them, two midterms and a final. some class quizzes, and they'll be posted on Blackboard. And the big project, you'll have a big project you'll have to do, and you'll see it's quite a bit of your points for the class. So what I want to talk about the project today, and I want us to start getting started on this project, okay? Because I'm going to kind of cater the class for you to do this project. And so as I talk about this project, what you're going to do is you're going to have an animal production enterprise. It can be your personal farm that you have now, or the farm you hope to have, but you will have an animal production enterprise, whether it's cow-calf, stocker, dairy, sheep, goats, horses, pigs, chickens, bees. I don't care what it is, as long as it's animal agriculture. And we're going to run this thing for a year. Basically, you're going to balance rations for the different stages of production for your animals. You're going to talk about your reproduction goals and how you plan to get your animals bred. You're going to talk about your genetics, your health, and just basic management of these animals. So you're going to include a vaccination program and things like that. And you're going to talk about forage management as well with your pastures. And then what we're going to do to bring in some economic stuff is we're going to do some enterprise budgets. So say, for instance, you do a cow-calf operation. You're going to balance rations for your brood cows for the first 3 months after calving, second, from 3 to 6 months after calving, 6 to 9 months after calving, and 9 to 12 months after calving. So that'll be 4 rations. You're going to have a ration for your bulls. You're going to have a ration for your weaned calves. So that's 5 or 6 rations right there that you'll be balancing for if you had a cow-calf operation. You're going to talk about your forage management and your grazing of your farm. So you're going to have maps of your farm and your layout of the farm and your grazing strategy. And we know in real life, sometimes what we plan doesn't work out. And this year would be a great example where we had a drought. And that really threw a lot of the grazing plans into chaos, because we had, at least in my part of the country, we were about 14 inches below normal on rainfall. So a lot of people ran out of grass and started having to feed their cattle pretty early. But we'll just assume it's a normal year with rainfall in a normal growing season. And so you're going to have all this put together in a written project, and then you will also have to give an oral presentation with your plan. Get up and talk about it. About 15 to 20 minutes is what I would expect. Are you freaking out on me, Jasmine?
Not too much.
All right.
I know I'm freaking out on you.
Why is that, Tom? You don't
just
have to
in general. I know, but it's just in general.
So this class is going to be pretty intense, okay? At least on your part at home, putting together this plan. And the purpose of this, for me doing it like this, is because it's going to make you think. All right. You're going to have to apply stuff we've learned, stuff we're going to learn, theories and science to real life situations. And then you're going to be incorporating, money as well. So you know what's going to cost you. You know what it's going to cost you to feed your cows. You know what it's going to cost you to make hay. Um, Things like that. And how much money, you expect to get for your calves. So you can put a dollar value to it. And hopefully you make money, but sometimes you may lose money. That's just the way the ball rolls. Farmers are very optimistic people. There's always next year. We'll do better next year. Uh, they're probably they're the biggest gamblers and the most optimistic people there are. Any questions, Jasmine?
I can't think of any.
Okay. So, if you do, don't be afraid to call, or any of the online students. So the first thing we're going to head over, we're going to talk about nutrition, body condition score, different stages of production of the of livestock, and balancing rations. Now, I know that you and I, or last semester we talked a lot about balancing rations, but I wouldn't, since we've got students that are taking the class that wasn't in the animal science class, we'll have to hit this again. So hopefully I won't bore you when we go over on how to balance rations, and it'll just reinforce what we learned last year, and then you'll get a lot of experience balancing your own rations. As I said, I'll give you the materials you need. Then we'll have an exam on the nutrition. Then we'll do the same thing with reproduction. And genetics. We won't have that third exam. I'll just include that in the final. I thought I took that out. Or I didn't see it. But we'll have 2 exams and then the final exam. And we'll talk a little bit about health management and production system, production section. So that's kind of how we got the class lined out. If you don't have any questions, we'll move on from here. Now, it's wintertime, and so I suspect, unless this weather continues the way it is the rest of the winter, we're going to get some snow and we're going to miss class. It's that simple. And the odd thing is, y'all have missed more class than we have already this semester. Usually it's flip-flopped around. So everything that we're going to go over in Blackboard or in this class, I've got available to you on Blackboard so that you can go ahead and get started on your project. So I've got a lot of how to balance rations. I've got a lot of nutrition publications here. And I got a write-up about the project, so you can go over that. Forage management. I need to make that unavailable. And so I got everything on here that you'll for you to get started and be working on this on your time in case we miss school, and we will. Even got the right here for the enterprise budgets. What it is, it's just a link to the Virginia Tech Extension website where uh, these enterprise budgets are. So you can just like right here the livestock budgets. You can click on that and pick out what you're doing. You know, say like you're doing a spring calving and you're mainly feeding hay. You don't have corn silage, or if you do corn silage, you can pick the corn silage ration or the corn silage one. But if you can open this up and hopefully it'll open up here quickly. And so it's got a lot of the stuff in here you need. You just need to change, make these numbers fit however many cows you've got. Uh, you can change your prices on your feed and your interest rate for your loans. It's a very good tool in real life to use. Uh, so you can go in here and change these numbers and it'll automatically figure out what you're doing or figure out the math for you. And you can get total numbers and everything. It makes sense. Try to make it easier for you guys, but it's a good tool for y'all and for all producers because we really need to know what it's costing us. So there's all sorts of budgets, your cow calf, stockers, your wean steers when you go to wean your calves, what it's going to cost you. So say, for instance, you've got a cow calf operating, a cow calf system. You're going to be doing, say, a hay ration, spring calving, or fall calving. It doesn't matter to me, but you're going to have the budget for that. You're going to have a budget for the wean steers. And you'll have a budget for if you produce your own hay, you're going to have a budget for that. And I'll show you some of those crop budgets and pasture budgets. If you do horses, there's the spreadsheets or these enterprise budgets for different horse operations and dairy. Fencing budgets, so you have an idea what it's going to cost you on fencing. Sheep, feeder land budgets, goat budgets, and pork production. This is a niche pork production deal if you're going to raise pigs. Typically, as we discussed in animal science, with swine production, it's very vertically integrated, and you'll need to get a contract with one of these swine producers and build a house and get a contract to produce their swine. But if you're doing it on your own, it's going to be a niche market you're hitting. You're going to have some sows and raise the pigs and either sell the pigs or finish them out and slaughter them and sell the product. But it's a niche market. You're not doing the conventional swine production deal. Then you have cropland and pasture land rental rates. You can look at that one. It's not an enterprise budget, but give you an idea of what it's going to cost you to rent land if you need to rent land. And you have, you also have crop budgets here, like alfalfa. Let's see. Well, those are crops. I thought they'd have I thought they had a hay budget here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Annual pasture and hay budgets. Uh, Alfalfa, corn silage. Here's your fescue pasture and hay budgets. So, you're going to have a pasture budget, and if you put up hay, you're going to have a hay budget as well. So we found some different things throughout the years. This one guy that took our class, he decided it was cheaper for him to buy hay than it was to make it. But due to the security of making their own hay and everything, and how sometimes how it's hard to buy good quality hay, they decided just to take that loss with hay making and make their own hay. Other people I know said, I'm not going to buy my hay, or I'm just going to buy my hay instead of trying to make it because I'm going to lose money with making hay. So, real life situation, it's a tough call to make. Making hay is expensive. It's risky because of the weather. You've got to have all sorts of equipment, and as I said, it can get risky if it gets rained on. Whereas if you don't make it, you're going to have to try to buy it and get it hauled into your farm, or go haul it yourself. And if everybody's short on hay, it gets pretty expensive, or hay can get pretty expensive. But if you're putting up round bales, you're going to have a pretty good sized tractor and to pull, to handle that round baler, and your mowing machine or disc mower, whatever you have, and your rake and your tedder. And you're going to have, you're like me, you don't have that money, so you're going to have to go to the bank and buy the money from the bank, so you're going to have an interest rate you have to pay. And whereas if you just buy your hay, you can get by with a smaller tractor. You don't have to have all that hay equipment. You don't have all that interest expense. So anyway, just some things to consider in real life. And I also have up here, some production goals and materials regarding, if you got a beef farm, a cow-calf operation, what are some basic goals that you should be, what are the industry goals that you should be having every year? If you have, what should your calves be weighing at weaning time? What's a reasonable goal for your cows getting bred back? Because you're always going to have some open cows, but what's reasonable? What's the industry average? Because if you're below, you're doing something wrong, right? If your cow's not getting bred back, you're doing something wrong. If you've got pretty low conception rates. And I got stuff on genetics, and so anyway, everything, most everything you need is going to be available to you, so you can work on it even if we don't have class due to weather. Do you have any questions or feeling overwhelmed or anything like that right now?
A little overwhelmed, but I'll be okay, I guess.
Yeah, I think you'll be all right. It's not like it's all going to be due tomorrow and you have no clue what's going on. All right, we'll do little parts. You'll turn it in throughout the semester. Okay? What do you think, your first thoughts right now, what do you think you would be, what do you think you're going to be doing your project
I'm not really sure.
Do you have an ag background, Jasmine?
Not really.
Okay.
Veterinarian, wasn't that what you were aiming for?
Yeah.
She was aiming on
What
being
did
a
you?
vet when she grows up.
Okay.
So
Are you thinking more small animal or large animal?
I was thinking more large animal.
Okay. Now, one of the things you'll do as a vet is, you're going to have to work closely with farmers, of course, uh, and they're going to be looking at you as a professional source of information, of helping them make management decisions as well. So, even though you may not have the background or, you know, for the, animal experience background, if you're going to be a vet, you're going to be advising your clients as well, especially on nutrition and health and reproduction.
yeah, I think pretty much pretty much every large animal vet that I know, they raise at least a few of some kind of animal on their own.
Yeah,
Just a few.
that's
Something for you
that's
to
what
think about there.
I've noticed in my experience. They have their own place, whether it's horses or cattle or sheep or goats. Uh, Most of the large animal vets I know have cattle and horses, except one. The vet I use for my horses, he lives in a suburb and he doesn't have any animals right now. He's raised on a dairy farm and went to Tech, went to the vet school there at Tech, then went up to Canada for an internship or a residency program with horses and specialized in horses. And man, he's good, but he doesn't have any of his own right now. He used to, but he just stays so busy right now that he just doesn't have time for it. He's got a couple kids and just doesn't have anything on his own. Now another vet that I use, he has he has a big horse farm. I've trained some horses for him, and he just hires people to run that for him. But he has his own farm with some horses, raises a bunch of horses, and I think he may have some cattle as well. But most of them, like Tom said, most of them do have their own animals.
I was mainly telling her that to sort of think about, well, she may be raising a few cows or a couple horses or something on the side as far as to do this project. Just start to think about, running, just which you like better, horses or cows?
Or sheep.
Okay. Or sheep, yeah. Granted, we don't have many of those around here, but it's like, but
I guess
it just
it's
sort of,
probably I guess it's probably too hot out there
yeah,
in your part of the country, isn't it?
it could be. It's too hot for us humans. But just as far as this project or whatever, you could maybe think in terms of just running a small little few cows, few horses kind of thing. So that you can think of it that way for doing this project. That's at least mentally where I went.
Yeah, and if you're thinking a large animal vet, you know, you're in a big cow calf area out there, right? Or is it mainly stockers?
We do cow calf. I think that's a lot of what we have here.
When my wife worked out in South Boston, I was heading out that way a lot. That's mainly what I saw. I saw a lot of cow calf operations. So, you know, since that would be your main clientele, you know, supposing that you come back to that area of Keysville, uh, that's probably what I would go with. All right.
Yes.
That would be my recommendation. But, if you like horses quite a bit, you're more than, you can do horses. I don't really care. I just want you to enjoy this and learn from it. And I think it'll help you in the future if you ever raise your own animals. Do you like horses?
Yes. I like all animals.
All right. Do you have any horses? Do you have any animals yourself right now or not?
The only animals I have is a little bitty Yorkie and a cat.
Okay. That's fine. Well, uh, I would pick one of those two personally. Uh, it's what I like. That's why I would pick them. You know, I train horses as well, so. But I'll be using the cow as a model. Uh, Sheep, you know, we can talk a little bit about sheep and goats uh, as well. You know, they're ruminants. They're going to be very similar to cattle from that aspect. They've got some nuances about them that are different than cattle, but for the most part, it's going to be very similar. Horses, it balancing rations for horses is going to be different uh, because they balance with calories instead of TDN, like we balance in animal science. You're going to be looking more at calories and grams of protein and kilocalories for balancing those rations. But it's not that hard. I got the information up there for you on there on how to do that. So anyway, um, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover regarding the syllabus and the project, unless you got some more questions. Okay. Um, so, what I would like for everybody to do, for the online students and the ones sitting, and for you sitting in class there, Jasmine, um, you're not going to get the project done unless you get started, right? So, sometimes the hardest part of doing a big project like this is getting started. So, what I'd like for you to do, uh, today's Tuesday. We meet Thursday again. Uh, let's say, but next Tuesday, I want you just to shoot me an email and telling me what you're going to do your project on. It can be two sentences, one sentence. Hey, I'm going to do this project for a cow calf operation, or I'm going to do this on a stocker operation, or a horse boarding facility, or a market lamb, whatever it may be. Just send me an email by Tuesday, even you online students, and let me know what you're going to do your project on. Fair enough?
Yes.
That way you got the first step out of the way of figuring out what you're going to do it on. Now, if for you online students, if you have a farm and you want to do it for your farm that you have now, that's fine. Or your dad's farm. I, that's perfectly fine, because if it can help you make more money or your dad make more money, that's great. So you can use your existing farm if you have one. Uh, if you don't have one, then here's a time you can play pretend. What's your dream farm? How many cows do you want to be able to run? You know, in an ideal situation. So if you want to have, say, 100 cows, then that could, you know, you need a farm big enough to run 100 cows and go from there. Lay it off the way you want it, you know. Because in real life, it's, you know, unless you go out west, it's not going to be a perfect square, you know, where everything's laid off. And you go west, things start getting squared up when you get out in that flat land. They just keep everything square. In Virginia, I don't know how they do it, but by gosh, it's all crooked and there's nothing square about it. It's jagged and little nooks and crannies, and somebody else's farm cuts through part of yours. You know, your farm will wrap around somebody else's and stuff like that. So it it lays it's a lot different. You know, in real life in Virginia, you know, your farms may not be connected. It probably won't be. Even on those ranches I worked out in Colorado, our ranch wasn't one continuous piece of property. We had we had a ranch there where the home base was. We had a ranch right across the state line in Utah, and then we had another ranch or some more land about an hour and a half from the home base in Colorado, in further southwest Colorado. And then they ran a lot of cattle, or a lot of the land they grazed their cattle on was government owned land. The BLM, Bureau of Land Management, uh, or forest. They had to get forest permits and from the state forestry, and we ran them up in the mountains, in the LaSalle Mountains. A lot of the winter range was there between on that road between Moab, Utah, and Monticello. If you're familiar with the West, if you've been out there in southwest Colorado and southeastern Utah, is there in that corner. A couple hours below Grand Junction. When I was in the Sand Hills, that ranch was continuous. It was probably about an 8,000 acre ranch, and it was just one continuous piece of property. But there were other ranches there that weren't continuous. One of the ranches that joined us, the Monahan Ranch, you know, they had different properties throughout that area that wasn't connected. It wasn't one continuous ranch. And we see that a lot in Virginia. You know, you'll have your home base, and then you'll have some property a few miles down the road, or you'll have land rented throughout a certain area. So, and you got to travel. It's not, you don't have that convenience of just one central location. So, uh, but where you're going to make up your own farm, you can have it one central location. There's one big piece of property if you want. There was an article. Let me pull it up here. It's on my email. It was in one of the beef magazines I get, and I thought this was a very interesting article. Um, it talked about uh, your ranch goals and your family lifestyle. Do they match? Uh, and I guess when, you know, I hadn't used this before. I thought I'd mark talk about. I saw that article and kept it. Uh, what type of lifestyle would you like to have? I mean, ideally, or what do we hope for?
Want to, just you, spouse, couple kids.
I mean,
I
what the,
just want to be able to support myself, basically, and then get a couple of the cars that I really want, and that's about it.
okay. Uh, so you want to be able to pay the bills, right?
Yes.
You want to be able to put a little back for retirement,
Yeah.
and you want a little bit of money to play on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you were doing, I know you're looking at being a vet, but a full-time farmer, without another job to go to, how do you think their standard of living would be? And it's going to vary. Okay, I realize that. But if you had to make a living just on cow calf pairs, no other source of income, I mean, you take me, and I'll use Tom for an example as well, so if he don't care. We both work. I don't make enough money training horses, so I have to have another job. Tom, you know, I don't guess he makes enough money on his farm, so he has to have another job as well. So
Nope, not by a long shot.
yeah,
uh,
so um, you think it's easy to do that? I mean, to be able to just to
No, not really.
no, it's not. The old joke about farming is that you have to inherit it, win the lottery. Uh, and I guess in a way that may be true. Uh, there's some states that have got some programs out. They'll take, say, an older farmer, um, will take on a young guy, and he works for him for several years. And as he transitions out, he passes that farm on to the young guy. Uh, I think Nebraska has a program set up like that. They try to match young farmers or people that want to farm with an older generation whose kids don't want to go back to that farm. And another thing you'll see in real life with full time farmers, usually the wife has an outside job. Uh, that's pretty common. So, it's a tough life when you're taking a look at just cow calf pairs or cow calf operation. You're gonna get paid once a year, and that's it. Uh, so cash flow hurts because you don't have your money's going out year round. You got to buy gas. You got to pay for your electric bills. You got to buy for your food, your clothes, and you only get one payday a year. So you got to be a pretty smart money manager. You really got to learn to budget your money, uh, not only for your business but for your own personal stuff as well. So, it's not a you know it's challenging. It's fun. It's hard. Uh, but I think those of us that farm, even though we may have second jobs, I don't think we'd trade it for anything else. Would we? Would we, Tom?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty hard. I mean, that's, like I was telling my class yesterday, I don't even try to, make a living off of our farm. My goal is to get the farm to pay for itself so it'll survive for the next generation, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and everybody has different goals for their farm. You know, I don't have a very big farm. It's only about 100 acres. Um, but it provides income, but uh, not enough for me to survive on with today's cost. There's no way I can make enough money off my farm to go buy a new truck, you know, or even buy a car. I just can't run many that many head of cows to do that. When I was in college, the number when I was in grad school, and this was in the early '90s, in order to make a living, be self-sustaining farm, and not a and not have a high standard of living, but not to be dirt poor. At least there in Nebraska, it was run. You had to have about 100 head of cows, and that's providing most of your land's pretty well paid for. It was kind of passed on to you, and I'd say that's about right. Uh, Nowadays, it may be a little bit more. Have you heard that number? What it would be now, Tom? Any idea?
No, I haven't. I really haven't, but I imagine it's going to be higher now.
Yeah, I would too, just because of increased costs with everything. Um, so, that's quite a few cows. That takes quite a bit of land to run 100 cows. Um, so it's a it's not an easy deal, and I know Virginia we have a lot of part-time farmers. The average cow herd in Virginia is about 30 cows. And we're not going to make a living off 30 cows by any means. And so, by the time you take out your expenses of keeping those cows, and you know, it's not going to be a whole lot of money for you to live on for the year and pay all your bills. But it's fun. It's an added source of income, and it's a tax break. There's a lot of tax advantages to that. Uh, but if it wasn't for part-time farmers, I think the world would starve to death because we as part-time farmers really contribute a lot to food production because there's so much of us. All right, so um, we got a little bit of time left. Um, so I told you I'm going to use cattle as a model, and so the first thing we're going to talk about is nutrition and come in with forage management in there as well. Then we'll have an exam. So, what I want to talk about with nutrition, I want to look at the big picture first. Uh, and so, I want to look at the first thing I want to look at or go over are the stages of production. Okay, and um, you can find this in Blackboard, uh, under the January the 9th tab with the ration balancing, uh, it would be right here, balancing rations, beef nutrition, part 1 and part 2 is what I'm looking at right now, is where I'm getting this from. So, when we look at an animal's requirements, from animal science, those basic requirements are going to be energy, vitamins and minerals, water, and protein, right? What else? What am I missing out? Energy, protein, vitamins, minerals, water. You've got to have that. So, we've always got to keep that in mind. But when we take a look at the big picture with cattle, do our cows or our animals, whether it's sheep or horses, do they require the same level of nutrients all year long? What I'm feeding them now, is that going to, or that, the nutrient, the energy and protein level with whatever I'm feeding them, do I have to change that throughout the year, or does that stay the same year round?
You have to change it throughout the year.
You're right. I have to change it. Now, when we think about how nutrient requirements change throughout the year, we'll disregard the weather right now and just look at production look at what the animal's going through. So if we start using a cow as a model, and sheep and goats and horses are going to be similar. There's going to be some variations with sheep and goats. But if we take a look at, say, day 0 is the day that she calves, okay? So if we look at it in 3-month increments, the first 3 months after calving, do you think her nutrition requirements are going to be high or low in those first 3 months after calving?
Higher.
Yeah, they're going to be higher. Those first 3 months after calving is going to be her highest nutrient requirements, because a cow, she's producing milk for that calf, and her milk production is, she doesn't start off with a big ton of milk, because that calf can't handle it. It's just a few days old, up to a couple weeks old. It can't handle a large amount of milk. So Mother Nature's designed them to where they increase their milk production up to about 6 weeks. And about 6 weeks after calving, that cow will be producing what's called peak lactation. That's when she's going to hit her highest production of milk. And that calf, 6 weeks old, he's growing fast, he's eating very well, and so he can handle that he's handling more milk, and she'll maintain that for a while, as that calf is growing. Then as that calf gets older, milk production starts to go down. So that first 3 months after calving, she's producing milk, and she reaches peak lactation, and that calf's growing like a weed and pretty much living off of mom. Okay, it's not able to eat grass at this point. or it can't utilize grass because its rumen is not formed. So it's pretty much all milk. And so, this cow, she's producing milk. She's recovering from calving, and that takes a lot out of a cow. That's for if there's any women in here that's had babies, it's a pretty tiring process, the labor, and uh, and then your body is readjusting from all the different hormonal changes and everything that went on, and so you have that postpartum period. That cow's recovering from calving. She's producing milk, and those nutrients are really high. And to make things even complicated for us, or not more complicated, but you know, ideally, as a cow-calf producer, we want our cows to calve every 12 months. Their gestation period is 285 days, or about 9 months. So at the end of this stage one of production, this first 3 months of production, we're going to be turning the bull back in with them, and we want them to get bred back, right? And we want them to get bred back early in that breeding season. Ideally, when they first come into heat, we want them to get bred and conceive with that first heat cycle, that first estrus cycle. So, so we're asking a lot of these cows, and so their requirements are very high in these first 3 months. Now, the second stage of production is from three months after calving to 6 months after calving. What's going on during this time? And Jasmine, I know you probably can't answer that question since you don't have a cattle background. But, typically, your breeding season is, it varies from farmer to farmer. Ideally, we want it as short as possible. Okay. Some people I know, some producers, their breeding season's a month. For some pretty small herds, they'll get those cows bred in a month. They'll all calve within a month of each other and be good to go. The more cows you get, the harder it's tough to do that. You got to be a top-notch manager to have a 30-day breeding season for your cows. Most places and most of the industry is probably about 60 days. Some have a 90-day period, 60 to 90 days. But I think most of the really good producers now have gotten it down to a 60-day breeding season. So after, 3 months after calving, we turn those bulls loose with those cows so that hopefully they'll calve back within a year of their calving date. So, they've already hit peak lactation. They hit that about 6 weeks of production, or 6 weeks after calving. And so, they're probably starting to decrease milk production a little bit during the second 3 months. And as we get closer to that 6-month period, that milk production decreases even more. So, milk production's decreasing. They've already recovered from calving. And hopefully they're bred by the end of that 6-month period. Hopefully we got them bred those first, from 3 to 4 months. That first month, by the 5th month after calving, hopefully they're already bred. So since they've already, they've recovered from calving, they're not producing as much milk as they were those first 3 months. Do you think their nutrition requirements have increased or decreased?
Decreased.
Yeah, they've decreased some. Uh, it's decreased. Um, so we don't have to feed them as much. Uh, energy and protein wise because it's decreased. Now, typically about 6 to 7 months after calving is when we wean their calves. So um, we wean them and we dry off that cow, or she quits producing milk when she's not being nursed. So she's not producing any milk. Her calf's off of her, and hopefully she should be bred back at this time. But you're only in that second stage. You're in that second stage of pregnancy, and that fetus isn't growing very fast at all. Okay, this 6 to 9 months after calving, that third stage of production, that's the time of year when that cow's nutrient requirements are at its lowest. You can get her fat pretty easy because she's not producing milk, the fetus isn't growing very fast, and her nutrient requirements are pretty low compared to the rest of the year. Then that last stage of production, stage 4 of production for that cow, is going to be from 9 to 12 months after calving. Okay, and what happens in that last trimester of pregnancy is that fetus grows very fast. So it's taking up a lot of nutrients from that cow. And so her nutrient requirements increase during this time, and they increase drastically compared to what it was in stage 3. And this time frame for nutritional purposes, this fourth stage of production from 9 to 12 months after calving, that is her second highest nutrient requirements. So, at the end of the 12 months, she'll calve, and then the nutrient requirements go up higher, because you're back in stage 1. So stage 1's the highest, then it drops in stage 2, drops even more in stage 3. Stage 4, it goes up, but not quite as much as it is in stage 1. So stage 1 and stage 4 are the highest nutrient requirements. You understand how that works? You understand why that is?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for those of you doing sheep and goats, it's going to be the principle is the same. The time frame is going to be a little bit different because sheep and goats have about a 5-month gestation period, and typically sheep are short daylight breeders. They'll just breed when the daylight start getting shorter. So typically we breed those in the fall. We lamb in the spring, and there's some breeds of sheep out there that will cycle year round, but the black-faced wool breeds won't. They're just they don't cycle very easily out of season. They just come in and start having extra cycles in the fall. So, we'll have those lambs and let them stay on mama for about 90 days, 60 to 90 days, and wean them. And when we'll breed them back in the fall and start again. But those that cycle changes. The different times, but it's still very similar. Right after lambing, those nutrient requirements are going to be very high, uh, where it's going to be the highest for the sheep and goats. And after I'm not sure when sheep and goats hit their peak lactation, but that second stage, uh, it's going to drop their nutrient requirements, and then once you pull those lambs off, it's going to be pretty low up until uh, the last 6 weeks or so of gestation, when that lamb's growing pretty fast. It'll increase again on you. So the stages are there. It's just a different time frame with sheep and goats. But the point of this is that throughout the year, their nutrient requirements change according to the production of the animal, lactation, gestation, uh, things like that. Now, what else can influence the requirements of an animal? The nutrient requirements of an animal.
The weather.
Yeah, the weather. Um, you know, farm animals. They'll most of them do okay being outside. As long as we get them, as long as we feed them properly, uh, they can handle the weather, um, and they can handle extreme weather as long as it's timely. Uh, you know, uh, we can. Cows can handle some pretty cold weather as long as they have their winter coat on. A couple years ago, there was a blizzard up in South Dakota in October. Started off as rain, then it got cold, turned to snow, and then it got really cold. And they lost a lot of animals, lost a lot of cows, lost a lot of horses, because those animals didn't have a winter coat on. And a cold rain is harder on an animal than about anything else because it gets that hair coat wet. Uh, 30 degrees and it's in the 30s but not quite cold enough to snow, and you know wind's blowing a little bit and it's raining, that old hair gets wet. uh, that's pretty hard on them. We know a cold rain's hard on us, right? And you imagine once your clothes get wet how much colder you are. We've all been there, right? So, and it's the same thing for cattle or horses or sheep. Um, if it's dry and 0 degrees, it's not as bad as being cold and wet at 35, is it? Which is colder on you, Jasmine? 0 degrees or being cold and wet at 35 degrees?
Cold and wet at 35.
Yeah, because 0 degrees and our clothes are dry, we're all right. And our clothes are kind of like that hair on that cow. So, um, weather has a lot to do with it, whether that coat is dry or wet. Wind plays a significant factor in it. We always hear about wind chill. Um, it may be the ambient temperature may be 40 degrees, but that wind's blowing pretty hard. It can be down to in the teens, can it? And it's just miserable to be out there in it. It's the same thing for those cattle. That heat or that wind sure zaps that heat out of them. So when we're thinking about that cold weather and livestock, you think we need to feed them a little bit extra during that during those cold snaps?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Now, what do you think would be the best thing for us to give them extra of? Would it be grain or would it be hay?
Hay.
I'm sorry, I was coughing. I didn't hear you.
Hay.
Yeah, hay. Hay is very fibrous, right? And so when it breaks down, it generates heat. So during those periods when it's cold, we want when they've got cold stress on them, we want to give them some extra hay to generate some heat. What else do you think could influence their how much they stay warm or how cold they are, other than the hair coat and the extra feed?
I'm not sure.
Okay, how about fat? How much fat that animal's carrying? Is fat an
Yeah.
insulation factor? Yeah, it is. We got a fat cow out there. She can handle that. She can handle that cold a whole lot better than a skinny cow. She doesn't have those energy reserves, and she doesn't have that extra insulation of that fat. And how we refer to that fat cover is a term called body condition. Okay, so when you hear body condition, that's referring to how much fat cover they have. And body condition is very important with their livestock, especially with getting them bred back. So my watch says it's time. Its class ends at 10:15, right?
It's either 10:15 or 10:20, but
All right. Okay.
the thing just went ding. So
Uh, yeah, I'm thinking it ends at 10:15. So we'll get cut off here in a
yeah,
minute.
yeah. For our classes, they usually go through 10:20. So I mean, we're 50-minute classes, but
All right.
I
Well,
think
we can do 10:20 as long as it stays connected. Not a problem.
yep.
Since we missed one.
Whatever makes you happy.
All right. So body condition refers to the amount of fat cover an animal has, and what science has told us is that if a cow is in you know is in good body condition before she calves, chance she'll get bred back faster than a cow that's skinny when she calves. Okay, so body condition influences rebreeding rates, conception rates, how quickly they come back into heat after calving. Body condition is also uh, helps them. Good body condition helps them withstand that cold weather uh, better because of that insulation factor. Now, you think we want our cows real fat?
No.
No, uh, not really. Uh, if sometimes they get that way on us without us having to feed them, they'll get pretty fat. Uh, but if we're feeding them and they're pretty fat, we're probably overfeeding them. To be honest with you, uh, and that costs money. So we don't want them overly fat, and we definitely don't want them skinny because that's going to hurt our reproduction big time. So we got to find that happy medium. Now, when it comes to cattle, we we score. We have a body condition scoring system that ranges from 1 to 9, according to with fat cover. With 1 being a emaciated. I mean, I've never seen a body condition score of 1 on a cow in real life. Uh, they're pretty much a walking skeleton. At the same time, I've never seen a body condition score of 9 on a cow, which is just obscenely fat. Most cows that I've seen were that I've seen range from body condition 3 to 7. And I might have seen a few 8s. It's a very subjective method. But I know I've seen a lot of 7s. I've seen a lot of 3s. And anywhere in between. Ideally, when we calve, we want that body condition score to be about 5.5 to 6. Some publications will tell you want a minimum of 5. And other ones will tell you it's a 6. Some will tell you it's a 5.5. In real life, I prefer, if I'm going to err, I'm going to err on the side of caution. I would like to have a body condition score of 6, ideally. Now, if I get them too fat, that can also cause reproductive problems and calving problems and so on. But if I can keep my cows in a body condition score of 6 before they calve, I'm tickled to death. If my herd is averaging, a 6, 5.5 to 6, that means I'm going to have a few 4s in there. I'm going to have a few 7s in there. But, if I can have them about a 6, I'll be very happy. And we'll talk more on body conditioning on Wednesday. And I'll show you a video on how to do that. You have any questions?
No.
All right. That's good. 'Cause I got questions all the time. I'm always learning something new. And questioning sometimes of what I do know. But anyway, I think it'll be a fun class. I hope it's fun. I've had fun. I have fun teaching it. Hopefully y'all have fun doing the projects. I really enjoy reading them and listening to y'all's presentations. But don't get freaked out over that, okay? For you online students, you have any questions, please call me. And that goes for you too, Casman. All right. There's not another class in here right now, is there, Tom? Since John canceled his?
Yeah, as far as I know, they didn't schedule another class in here.
Well, I mean, there's not I know that the 232 class was supposed to go, but
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one got canceled, so we're done for the day.
All right. Well, y'all have a good day.
Okay, you too, and see you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
See y'all tomorrow.
Dwayne,
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, in these first 4 weeks before Evan gets back, if Jasmine doesn't happen to show up, are you gonna still teach class on those days?
Yeah. I will.
Okay. Okay. So
I don't
no problem
want
then.
to change anybody. They paid a lot of good money to take my class. I don't want to cheat them out of their money.
Yes. I was just making sure if we needed to set up a line of communication for her to let us know if she wasn't going to be here, so we could let you know, so you could do whatever. But okay. May just be
I'll
weird
teach
talking
you.
in an empty room. But okay. Fair enough. Thank
Hopefully
you.
she's here so I don't have to talk to the wall.
Yes.
So I can pick on her.
Yeah, she says she should be here, but I'll like glare at her and that kind of thing too to see if that'll help.
All right.
Okay.
I hope
All
she
right.
doesn't get tired of being in the hot seat the whole time either.
Yeah, just she's gonna be praying for Evan. Come back soon. Come back soon. So what was it he was doing? I forgot what you said.
He is in uh, tractor trailer driving school.
Oh, okay.
One of his buddies teaches a school for the get Class A CDLs, and
Oh,
he
okay.
said, "Hey, I got an extra spot. If you want to do this, come on, and I won't charge you." And normally they charge.
Nice.
Yeah, he told me normally the guy charges about $3,000 or so.
Uh-huh.
So he's getting it for free. So he goes, I
Wow.
can't turn that down. Like, no,
No,
you
he
can't.
can't. Wow. That's a good deal there. Okay. Cool. So he's going to be back the end of the month?
Yes, sir.
Or okay.
He should be. And Greg should be here for your class tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All
Bye.
right. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks. Bye.